Hey guys, OGalbina here, bringing you guys another Draft League Twitter discussion. This time we have a pretty fun one. I'm kind of pertaining to an upcoming league that I'm going to be in, and a league I've played in the past, in BBL, in which we're going to be asking what is your favorite Uber Pokemon to use in Draft League. Now, if you don't know Smogon or you don't know competitive Pokemon very well, Ubers is the highest tier of competitive Pokemon. It typically houses box legendaries like Groudon, Kyogre, things like that. The stuff that's too broken for standard play, essentially. And the BBL is a draft league that I've played in. I've won before. My buddy Kurt's played in one. I played Matt O'Shea in finals, stuff like that. Really fun league, really well ran. Liv kills it with running it every year. And it focuses on, you being allowed to draft one Uber Pokemon. And I've used a bunch of different ones throughout, my time playing Pokemon Draft League. I play in BBL a lot. And I figured it'd be fun to kind of talk about why some of these Pokemon are so broken and so fun to use, and maybe not so fun to play against. My personal answer was Zekrom. If you haven't seen our most recent BBL video, which is our run in the BBT, which is a tour, we drafted Zekrom, and it was so much fun to use. You should definitely check out that video. That one was fun, but again, every Uber I've used, I've really enjoyed. I used Marshadow one season. Amazing Pokemon. Top 5 in the format. I've used Palkia, won a championship with it. Even though it's considered a lower end Uber, it's amazing. And I'm not going to go super in depth on a lot of these because a lot of these kind of get reiterated later. I've used Ho-Oh, which I loved using. I've used Rayquaza. I've used Mega Salamence, which was awesome. So many really, really fun Pokemon that are a ton of fun to use. And today we're going to kind of be going over that. So if you guys do enjoy today's video, be sure to drop a like on it, as well as sub to the channel. We're on our way to 1,000 subs, and the support lately has been immense. So I really do appreciate it a ton, and I'd appreciate if you helped us out on that goal to 1,000. And yeah, if you want to follow me on Twitter as well and participate in these discussions, we also have another discussion going on custom Mega Pokemon. What Pokemon you think should be getting a Mega, and if they were to bring those back and give Pokemon new Megas, what would those Megas do? Their ability, stats, move pools, all that fun stuff, typing. So that's a really fun question. That's going to be the one that goes up next, in X amount of time, maybe later this week. And yeah, that being said, let's go ahead and jump into it. All right, so first, another option you can always do is just at me on Discord. If you don't have a Twitter and you want to be showcased, and we have Kaz here. You can't really see because it's cut off a little bit, saying the GOAT Uber's Draftmon is Genesect. I don't know if this is a hot take or not. Now, this is kind of an interesting question, right? Because the way the BBL does it, at least, and the BBL is probably the main draft league when it comes to Ubers. And I'll drop a link to the BBL server as well in the description below if you guys want to join. They're going to be having their showdown season soon, and I'm sure you can apply and hopefully maybe get in, or at least watch some cool Ubers games, maybe participate in some speed tours, things like that. But the way BBL does it is they're like top end, really broken Ubers. And then there are, some lower end Ubers. And depending on which price of Ubers you grab, you can potentially grab 2 Ubers. And I think if you grab, like, not necessarily one of the top tier Ubers like Yveltal, Zekrom, Xerneas, something like that, at the top end, and you want to grab something a little bit more like mid, like a Palkia, Genesect is such a good Pokemon with so many of those mid tier, like silver, gold tier Ubers. Just BBL kind of tiers them. It's a phenomenal pairing for a ton of them. Download is such a nuts ability on a Pokemon with the coverage that this thing has. It's insane. Being able to either get a Choice Band or a Choice Specs boost on switching, just for existing, and having access to U-Turn, as well as a great physical move pool, extreme speed, obviously your stabs and Iron Head, U-Turn, or Bug Buzz, Flash Cannon, then you have Flamethrower, Ice Beam, Thunderbolt, all these crazy coverage options on top of that download boost, on top of another item. You don't just have to be the prototypical Choice Scarf set, even though it's a great Scarfer. You can be Life Orb, you can be E-Belt, you can be Bandit, you can be Specs. Now imagine a Specs Flash Cannon coming out at you, or a Specs Flamethrower coming at you when it gets a special attack boost. So you're basically nasty plotted up for free on switching, which is, again, absolutely amazing and pretty nuts. You think of other Pokemon I get download like what, P2 or PZ, I guess. It typically uses adaptability, as its coverage just isn't as immense as Genesect is, and it wants to spam that normal step a little bit more with adaptability. But Genesect with that download boost has no switch, and super sick design mod too, super great shiny. So I definitely agree, it's definitely a great shiny. Next up we have Aquarius saying Giratina Origin, another Pokemon actually that would pair really well with Genesect, in all honesty, but a really good mid-tier Uber. I've seen a lot of people put a lot of work into this thing because while it is a little bit more offensive than like Giratina Altered and things like that, and it is forced to hold that Grisius Orb, this thing is stupidly fat on top of that offense that it gains. I definitely think this one would be a lot more fun to use than Giratina. Giratina would be probably better on like stall builds, and actually I think the next one is Giratina, so we'll talk about both of them. It's Lucas saying Giratina, saying the pure bulk is amazing, stall player speaking, and yeah, it's just a ridiculously fat mon. So both of the Pokemon are ridiculously great in their own rights. Giratina Origin is a little bit more offensive, but it still has insane bulk, and vice versa, where Giratina Altered is ridiculously bulky, can hold an item, but it's still pretty decent offensively. They're great Pokemon though, and especially for that mid-tier Uber price where you can still get like, you know, a Genesect, an Urshifu, what else can you get that like really pairs well? A Ferramosa, a Blaziken, something like that at that lower end. Phenomenal, really great Pokemon. So, since we just talked about Lucas and Aquarius, talking about Giratina, move on to the next. In Diet Tight, saying Reshiram. Its bulk is insane, letting you choose super effective moves most of the time, hitting like a truck, and especially the ability to switch it up with dede. This Pokemon is really cool in Ubers, right? Because if you guys know anything about Smogon Ubers, it's actually not that good. Just because there are things in the tier that you know, outshine it and, you know, outclass it in all reality. But when everybody only gets one Uber and you all can't have, you know, the top end Uber that kind of outclasses in its role, this Pokemon is a really good budget option as an Uber. It hits like an absolute truck, like Jason said. Dragon plus Fire Stab is like an insane combination. The fact that you can switch in and beat fairy types really easy with that strong fire hitting stab, as well as the fact that you just take neutral damage from fairy moves. The only super effective moves you have is you're weak to Edgequake, and then you're weak to other dragons, but being able to absolutely munch on fairies, and being able to, you know, beat steals opposed to being checked by steals like in a lot of other dragons is really insane. And it can go DD and go physical in a matchup, or go like mixed with like DD Flare Blitz or something like that. Really cool option. Sub-Toxic is actually a really nasty setter. Just Toxic Roost in general. This thing getting heavy duty boots, allowing it to avoid Rock Chip, is also absolutely amazing. So really cool mons. Mon for sure, and I know Jason has had a lot of success with it. I know my buddy Ant has had a lot of success with it. It's just a really strong Pokemon. Really great mon. Next up, we have Matt O'Shea saying, I feel like I love Mag or Marshadow more than anything I've used, but Solgaleo is insane. So we'll save Mag and Marshadow because I'm pretty sure other people talk about it a little bit. But Solgaleo is another really cool lower tiered Uber. I know Matt last season, so Matt was the person we played in finals last season at BBL, and he had a pretty nuts team. We didn't count Dragapult as an Uber last season, which we are now because just the combinations you can have with other Ubers, with two other Ubers, is kind of overwhelming. But he had Kyurem Black, Solgaleo, and Dragapult. So like the Dragon Spam plus Solgaleo was so ridiculously tough to deal with, in all honesty. Your fairies were getting immensely pressured, your steals were getting immensely pressured, and it made his team just really nasty to deal with. And Solgaleo is a great mon. Having Full Metal Body, I believe it's what it's called, is basically just Clear Body though, which is a great ability for an offensive Pokemon like Solgaleo. Not having to worry about webs, not having to worry about Intim, not having to worry about getting drops when you're trying to set up like Cosmic Powers or things like that. You can pretty easily go with like Weakness Policy, Flame Charge sets, or Agility. It gets Flare Blitz for steals, which is really clutch on a, you know, Psychic and Steel type, which is great. It also gets Earthquake, which is great coverage as well. It gets Morning Sun for reliable recovery. That's a great Pokemon overall. Think of like a Metagross's typing, but more offensive and can heal itself, which is obviously why it's an Uber and it's a little bit more broken. So that's definitely really cool. Next up, we have, is it Audi or if it's Audi or Odie, I apologize if I'm saying it wrong. He said, have only played one VGC draft with you, so I don't have much experience. For doubles, I'd love to try Solgaleo with Bulldoze combos. We kind of already talked about that, and I'm not too knowledgeable on doubles, so we won't say anything about that. For singles, the sheer power of Xerneas is the most appealing to me, because there aren't that many fairies that I like using, and it demands a lot of prep. 100%. Xerneas is one of those top-end Ubers in the format that's absolutely phenomenal, and it's not for what you think it is, because Geomancy is usually banned on Xerneas because it's a little bit too much to have an instant +2/+2/+2 in each of these stats with these Uber Pokemon. So we typically allow Xerneas, and most leagues typically allow Xerneas just with no Geomancy tacked on the top of it, which I think is definitely very smart. But that doesn't mean that Xerneas has switch-ins at all, really. This Pokemon is absolutely insane, throwing off Fairy Aura, Moonblast, and just 2-hit KOing the entire tier with a Specs, or Revenge killing everything with a Scarf. Everything offensive just drops to it. Just smashing through most steals, especially because most steals don't have reliable recovery. So even if you only take 35% from a Specs Modest Moonblast, you can only do that one time, and then you can't switch in anymore unless you're like a Berry or you do have recovery or your rest or something like that. Xerneas puts on immense pressure, and not only that, it can also go with really bulky calm mindsets. It has, you know, good utility and like defog. It even gets like cool coverage moves like Focus Blast and, you know, things like that as well, for, you know, potential checks and pivots that want to kind of come into it, and things like that. But again, most of the time, you're just going to be clicking Moonblast with Xerneas. I feel like there's not typically anything else you really need to click. Next up, we have Donald here saying most definitely Necrozma Duskmain. Very versatile. I almost read that as Duskmain, so like, that one's not actually that good. But Duskmain, yes. Now, Duskmain is actually typically a Pokemon in most Uber settings that is going to be banned, as it is just insane. Think of all the good things we said about Solgaleo, right? All the good things we said about Solgaleo. Then add on Photon Geyser on top of Sunsteel Strike for its stab options physically, and especially in Photon Geyser's sense. Still has Morning Sun, but this one gets Stealth Rock, it gets Thunder Wave, it gets Dragon Dance, it gets Prism Armor, which, you know, lowers the damage that it's taking from super effective moves. And you have a legitimately broken Pokemon. That Pokemon is obviously very versatile, as he said. It can be that bulky rocker, spread T-Waves. It can be physical. It can be special. It has Necro plus Solgaleo's move pool, essentially. Actually, no, I think it really only has Necro move pool plus Sunsteel Strike, which is honestly all it needs, to be completely honest. It's absolutely amazing. It has great coverage physically and especially, and it's ridiculously bulky and ridiculously strong. That Pokemon is top 1 in the format if it's allowed. Now typically it is not allowed, as it is, you know, pretty damn broken, in my opinion at least. Next up, we have Dashing Sceptile saying Calirex Icerider. It was my first ever Uber. I used it in Draft League. The mod is insane. I really want to use it again sometime. Ice Horse. Shoutouts to Kurt, who thinks this is like the most broken Pokemon ever. A couple seasons ago, I think it was actually 3 seasons ago in BBL, we allowed Icerider, and it's actually allowed this upcoming season, which we'll talk about at the end. But we allowed Calirex Icerider, and Platinum Howler got it, and we allowed him to get it with Genesect, so it was actually ridiculously low priced, which is nuts. So we had Calirex Icerider, Genesect, and Urshifu Single Strike, which was insane. Platinum Howler absolutely ran through the league with this Pokemon, and we really saw the pure power of this thing having basically 2 abilities in both Unnerve and Moxie, and, you know, whatever the Nea ability is for Glacier. It's basically just Moxie, is the way to think about it. But that, plus not being able to run resist berries, this thing's insane bulk. The fact that I think Kurt ran like a Life Orb Weavile and could not kill this thing from full with a knockoff, just by it being Psychic type, and it getting Agility and Trick Room and Swords Dance as a way to break through things as well, and having great coverage for steals and like high horsepower and close combat and things like that, having Seed Bomb for waters. This Pokemon, and then just the sheer power of Glacial Lance is astronomical. So this Pokemon is ridiculously good. It's insane. We are allowing in this upcoming BBL season on Wi-Fi, which again we'll talk about in a little bit, but for a much higher price point, to where whoever gets it can't get like a, you know, Genesect with it, or an Urshifu, like a Genesect and an Urshifu with it, which I think will kind of, you know, curb it a little bit and calm it down a little bit, but it's still definitely amazing. Next up, we have, again, I'm going to be so upset if I say this wrong, because he always comments on my things, I feel bad. Scroche, maybe, but he has a comment that says, haven't played too much Uber's draft, but I won an S-tier league with Ferramosa plus Lele once. I think it did a great job of running around the team with extra E4 spam, a bunch of pivots, and Mandatory Dark Ghost Resist, which is why it works so well, and I absolutely love using it. So the main thing with Ferramosa Lele as, like, you know, a core on paper is obviously the fact that Ferro can avoid priority, which is great, and Lele is not going to be an Uber in Gen 8. Now in Gen 7, that might have been even better, because Lele was so much better with terrain not being nerfed or anything like that. But Ferro is still a great Pokemon as like a low tier, what do you call it? It's like a low tier Uber paired with another one. I know Josh last season had like Dialga Ferramosa. I remember one season Lucas had Giratina plus Ferramosa. It's a great pivot. It forces very specific switch-ins. It's going to very much so allow teams to get broken through. And again, if you kind of give it that inch and you don't keep X check healthy enough to deal with it, or you don't have X priority to revenge it, it can just run through games with Beast Boost and being as fast as it is. And a lot of people think like, just run quick attack and it'll die. No, I've used Ferramosa before, in like showdown leagues and things like that, and it's honestly a Pokemon where if you EV correctly and you account for the random priority that can come, it's going to live those hits and then revenge those Pokemon. And it doesn't need to be healthy, it needs to be alive after that, as long as you've lived that hit already. So definitely a really good Pokemon, definitely a good lower tier Uber, to pair with something a little bit more scary at the top, which is really nice. Next up, though, we have Badass Frost saying Ursula is just broken as usual. People aren't allowed to complain about it anymore, which is pretty funny. Now, yeah, I drafted Ursula as an Uber last season, which is very interesting. I actually was able to get it round 4 because of the fact that it was an Uber, and people just didn't want to spend Uber money on it, which is fair, as it is typically allowed in standard leagues, but I won the championship with it. It was a great Pokemon. I had Palkia plus Urshifu plus Koko plus Gengar as like a main offensive 4 every single week. They came every single week, and they always did phenomenally. I love Urshifu. I've talked about it a million times. That thing with the strong Poison or Steel is very, very annoying with good Hazard support, with good Knock support, things like that. It's an amazing Pokemon, and yeah, it's definitely worth like a lower tier price when it comes to Ubers. If like the Uber price point is usually like 18 in BBL, it's definitely worth an 18 slot for sure, at least in my opinion. I loved it still. If we're talking about Uber Pokemon, we allowed for a time, I'd have to say Primal Groudon. Fantastic ability and duo typing, very strong. Now, I won't lie to you, Primal Groudon is banned in 99.99% of leagues, unless the league is explicitly saying we're allowing everything. Like, let's do it. So personally, I am I don't know if I can comment on it other than like, yeah, it's Primal Groudon. That is Lando T of Ubers. It is a ridiculous Pokemon, probably one of the best competitive Pokemon ever made, and usually is not allowed in Draft League because of it. Having that Fire Ground typing and just not being able to be hit by water moves unless your name is Golduck, it's pretty nuts. So I think it's gonna be, we're gonna hold off on that one at least for now. Next up we have Ferramosa again, which is the definition of Black Panther. We actually just talked about that one, so we don't have to talk about that. But yes, I do agree, Antony. But he's amazing. Great Pokemon. I do agree. I do like me some Primal Groudon. I wish I could use it. Only done one season, but I love Yveltal. We can talk about Yveltal finally. Roy Mustang, one of the coolest characters in a Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, just threw it up for me in the sense that we're talking about Yveltal, a top 3 Pokemon in the Ubers format, in Draft League at least, when it is allowed. And spoilers for Wi-Fi this upcoming season, Yveltal is allowed. It's a lot like Xerneas in the sense that Dark Aura boosted Dark moves just really don't have long-term switch-ins, but the fact that this thing has great recovery and roost, it can U-turn around, it can be physical or special very easily. Now, Xern can do that actually as well, which I kind of forgot to mention with like CC and Play Rough and things like that, but Yveltal can do that. It also has, again, phenomenal defensive utility, Sucker Punch for phenomenal priority, and not only does it offensively smash through everything, it also defensively checks like 75% of the meta, it feels like. It's a great defogger as well, and it's an absolute monster. Just a great Pokemon. I believe it also gets Nasty Plot as well if you want a Nasty Plot, but typically you don't need to set up with it. So, great Pokemon, like a top 3 Pokemon in the format. If you get the chance to use Yveltal, you probably should. Alright, next up we have good old Kurt with his great opinions. This is a former BBL champion, I want you all to know. A former BBL champion in Just Kurt 17, saying Zekrom, who he won the championship with, my favorite Uber to use right now. Zekrom is just an overpriced defogger. Lugia is just toxic bait, Bleg, and Dawnwing sucks cow butt. Ubers are overrated, overpriced buffoon, to be honest. He's also playing in this season of BBL. So not only does he think that, he's playing for his like 3rd or 4th season in the BBL. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Kurt's saying it's an overpriced defog because he brought defog Zekrom to BBL finals, or BBL semifinals versus Lib, because he had no removal. So it's not a Zekrom problem. It's a Just Kurt 17 draft one, but he won with it, so we can't knock him until he starts sucking with him, right? And he has done very good. His most recent season of BBL, he made semifinals, I believe, and played very solid. Or he made quarterfinals, and he would have played me in semifinals, I think, actually. Because I think he lost to Jack, and I think I played... I don't remember. No, he was on the other side of the bracket, because I think I lost in semifinals that season too. But I'm excited to have Kurt back. I'm excited to see him use an Uber and tank with it. I think he got Marshadow this season, so I'd love for him to see. I'd love to see him not do good with Marshadow and say, overpriced Hitmonchan. Next up, we have Endless Gadgets saying, every time I've used Groudon, my run has been amazing, including leading to a chip, so it would be wrong for me to choose anything else. So many teams are underprepared for the sheer force of Groudon plus Venusaur. Honorable mention to Protean Greninja for being fun as hell to use. Yes, 100%. Groudon is an amazing Pokemon. It's a Pokemon I drafted once, actually, and did terrible with. But I can't deny the fact that it's amazing. That thing, you know, setting up the sun, allowing it to basically resist water moves, which is really funny. Throwing off big precipice blades, potentially solar beams, as well as heat crashes, and it can sword stance, it can rock plush, it can bulk up, it can set up rocks, it can thunder wave, it can do so many different things. It's so bulky and it's so strong, nothing freaking OHKOs it, and nothing can take 2 hits, it feels like. Last season, I remember I played Jack with it, and he had like Groudon Victini, which is also demonic to try and switch into in the sun. He had Groudon Victini, and I just simply didn't have anything for it. I remember I bought a Max Fizzdef Uxie with Rest Talk for it. I was Psychic Foul Play. And even then, like, Adamant Heat Crash does like 45 to me. And Uxie is a very bulky Pokemon, for those of you know. So almost being 2-hit KO by a neutral hit with a non-boosting item is insane to me. Absolutely wild. So it's a great Pokemon, and the pairings you can have with it, with that sun aspect, whether it be Venusaur, Victini, things like that, it's a great Pokemon, and it's a lot of fun to use. I wish I would have used it better in the BBT run I had with it last year. But sometimes you just suck. There's not much you can do about it. But Endless is definitely right here. It's a great Pokemon. Next up, we have Amel saying, just give me Eternatus already. This is an interesting one because, like, I want to talk about this because a lot of people were like, why aren't we allowing Eternatus and Wi-Fi and things like that? And a lot of people wanted to, and I hard fought against it because the Pokemon is broken. Now I want you to picture this. We're making a Pokemon right now. We have Lego pieces. We've constructed Eternatus because he kind of looks like Lego pieces. We're deciding his typing, stats, move pool, all that stuff. We're gonna give it ridiculous natural bolt, right? We're gonna start off down here. Ridiculous natural bolt, which is great. We're going to give it 130 plus speed or something like that, something very similar. Pretty insane speed tier. We're going to give it the Dragon Poison typing, which is great stab combination plus Flamethrower, right? So we can do another one. Plus, I apologize, my phone is just ringing non-stop. No idea who that is. But we give him Dragon Poison Stab plus Flamethrower, right here, like on like level 4. Then we give it Recover. Then we give it Toxic Spikes. Then we give it Cosmic Power. How do you beat it? How do you beat a Pokemon with reliable recovery, that bulky, that fast, can't be OHKO'd by anything, can't be poisoned? How do you beat a Pokemon like that? Can't be checked by fairies. Like, what do you... Can't really be reliably checked by steals either. How do you beat that Pokemon in a draft setting where I can see what you can potentially bring for me? I get in Ubers, it can be overwhelmed by other Ubers, plus, you know, the fact that it has to run more general sets and it can't hyper-specific focus on what you're bringing. I think it's pretty insane, though, to you know, say that, yeah, we should be allowing this thing, you know? So I love you, Amel, but you cannot have Eternatus. Next up, we have Aaron12 saying Palkia or Mega Mewtwo X. 2 back-to-back chips in the same league. I have Mega Mewtwo X on both teams. Mega Mewtwo X is an amazing, amazing Pokemon. The ability to go physical very easily with like the highest attack stat in the game, but also can go special. It could be bulk up, it could be nasty ball, it could be recover, it could be stall breaker. It can wisp things, which is crazy. That Pokemon, I've used it before too. Amazing, so much better than Mega Mewtwo Y, and debatably better than regular Mewtwo. Regular Mewtwo is sometimes considered better than both of them because of the fact that it can run Life Orb with different items and things like that. And it still is, you know, just ridiculously strong and bulky and can do all the same things. But I personally, I love Mega Mewtwo X because fighting plus Psychic Stab offensively and defensively is really nuts. And then its move pool, its stat spread, it's just, there's no bad stats. There's not a bad stat. It can do whatever you really want it to do. It's Mew, but on steroids, it has become a fighting type. So crazy Pokemon, I agree. And then Palkia, I should talk about Palkia, I guess. I won a championship with Palkia recently. I love it. It's like a middle tier Uber. It's not considered anything broken, but Water plus Dragon is so good defensively and offensively, alongside with the coverage it has in like Thunderbolt, Flamethrower. I've even run Focus Punch. It gets ice coverage. It's a ridiculous Pokemon. It's unbelievably good. It's unbelievably strong. It has a great speed tier for Ubers and 100. A lot of the dragons and Ubers are like 90 and 95. So forcing them into a Scarf or being able to revenge them guaranteed with a Scarf is nuts. You can kind of just drop Specs, Life Orb, and Scarf hits very easily and not really have to think too much. It can even go bulk up physical, which is really cool too. But yeah. Next up we have Jesse504 who used Xerneas last season of BBL and very good with it. We already talked about Xerneas. But amazing Pokemon, obviously. I'm sorry, Jesse, you weren't quick enough. Next up, we have Josh saying Hex Marshadow. In the season which I had Marshadow and made it to, I don't remember if I made it to semis or not. I might have made it to just round 1, lost to live that season. But in one of the games, Josh told me to bring Hex Marshadow on purpose, and I don't like him anymore for that. But Marshadow in general is an amazing Pokemon. Ghost plus Fighting Stab is unresisted. There's just nothing that can, you know, resist both of those moves altogether, or even just take 2 of those moves altogether. There are very few Pokemon in the entire metagame that can take 2 Marshadow hits. Very few Pokemon that can take those 2 hits. It's actually astronomical how strong this Pokemon is, how insane it is. Technician boosted Shadow Snakes and Rock Tombs, also great coverage. It gets Bulk Up, Spectral Thief, as well as Poltergeist for even stronger Ghost Stab. It can Close Combat, it can Drain Punch. It's very simple in what it does. It's not very versatile, but it is so damn strong and so good at what it does. It doesn't run Hex though. Sorry, Josh. Not allowed. Next up, we have a couple that we've already talked about in Mega Mewtwo X from mid, specifically with Calm Mind, Taunt, Ice Beam, Recover, the best set humanly possible. And then we have Soul Blazing, Yveltal just gets to do things. Love it, 100%. That is what he gets to do. Next up, we have Liv, the Uber Draft League connoisseur herself, saying Lunala is probably my personal favorite. It's one of those top tiers so many people sleep on, despite it having such extreme diversity, plus a phenomenal offensive typing. Also, among the move pool, it's a great Scarf option with a speed tier plus its ability and boots make it solid defensively as well. Yeah, so Ghost Psychic, I believe is its typing, is really nuts. It has Shadow Shield, which is basically multi-scale. And in conjunction with Boots, it, you know, guarantees you to live a hit pretty much from everything. It's great with the Resist Barrier, it's great with the Scarf, it's great with the Specs. It's a Calm Mind setup mon. It can Roost, it can do so many things. Lunala is a Pokemon I really, really want to try, and who knows, we might be able to draft it in an upcoming league. But it's a great Pokemon, and Liv and so many other people have, you know, kind of proven how broken this Pokemon really can be. I think Galadite used it a couple seasons ago in the BBL and like smashed through everybody with it. I remember he beat me with like a Meteor Beam set when I had Ho-Oh, and I thought I could check it. So it's an amazing Pokemon, and yeah, it's ridiculously hard to deal with. Oh, man. Okay, next up we have Trexo saying Reshiram. We already talked about Reshiram. Very sick mon. He did very good in SBU with it, which is an S tier league that we allowed this thing in, which is nuts. Then we have Hayes saying Marshadow looks tailor-made for me. I fucking love offensive fighting / ghost, so I can't do that one. Next up we have Fran saying Arceus Electric. Added on this broken-ass team, got to finals only to lose to my nemesis P. McGee. that's one of my favorite names in Draft League, by the way. He's played BBL before, so I know it's a real person, which is funny. It's one of my favorite names ever. Either way, Arceus Electric was my favorite monster draft, just because the season performed so well for me. Hands down, my favorite Arceus, which is definitely cool. Arceus is definitely an interesting mon in general, right? Because there are some leagues, like I know BBL like allows like 2 to be drafted, and it's like in 2 different price points. There are a couple that are typically banned, I think. I know Arceus Normal is always banned. I'm trying to remember other ones that are always banned. Maybe it's Fairy, maybe it's Ghost. Like there's some pretty nuts ones that, you know, can be drafted and can kind of, you know, really just run through teams. Arceus Electric's a cool one though that I actually haven't seen a lot of people ever use in Uber's draft, and it makes sense though. That strong judgment plus having like Ice Beam or like grass coverage and things like that to really punch those grounds. Having only one weakness with Arceus Bulk actually makes Electric a really phenomenal defensive typing as well. You can be Calm Mind and kind of sit on a lot of things. You can be physical. I actually don't know if it gets any physical coverage, so maybe you're kind of shoehorned into special on Arceus Electric, but I don't think that's a bad thing. It can be defensive, it can be offensive, it can be specially defensive, it can be, you know, whatever you really need it to be. It's an Arceus, and it's a really cool mon to see come and, you know, be able to be used in draft when you pull up with God on your team. Now, typically, I remember I played once in a league that allowed everybody to get an Arceus form, which was insane, and they didn't ban any of them. I remember they also didn't ban, like, anything in general. I had Kyogre, Arceus Ground in that league. I won the league because, you know, they allowed Kyogre and everybody to have an Arceus, so it was a fun time, though. For the few weeks I got to play in it, I took over a team, but Arceus Electric is a really cool one. It's always cool to see Arceus mons. Next up, surprise, surprise, we have Sceptile Scythe saying Slowking Galar. Who would have thunk it? Next. Next up we have Dede here saying Ho-Oh. Ho-Oh by far. Hits like a truck and it just doesn't die. I'm assuming doesn't instead of does die. Went plus 24 differential with it, and Ho-Oh alone was 16. Possibly my favorite team ever drafted. Stall, of course, included in it. Fun as hell to run Scar / Bantonics. People expect boots and don't set up rocks until it's knocked. I agree. I think Ho-Oh is an amazing Pokemon. I like seeing the hard balance team with it here too. I drafted it a couple BBL seasons ago, not last season, season 1, but the one before. I had Ho-Oh plus like T-Tar and like Slowbro. I had like this like fat, annoying balance team. It was like the Ho-Oh double rock balance was the squad, and it was a ton of fun. It is ridiculously bulky. I love subtoxic. I love just like toxic roost 2 attacks. Regen is the best ability in the game for a reason. In a Pokemon like this, getting boots this gen, allowing you to avoid rocks altogether, or just deter your opponent from even wanting to set them up, assuming like that you are boots. I ran Band 1 week, and I think I even ran Scarf 1 week to catch a Marshadow off guard, and because I thought it could stay and knock me out with Rock Tomb, and it couldn't, and we were able to you know, Oko that thing with a Brave Bird. Fire plus flying is a great offensive stab combination, especially Sacred Fire just spreading burns and passive damage. It could even go Calm Mind in some matchups, which I think is cool. It gets Earthquake and Earth Power as well, which is awesome. And I think Mystical Fire is actually a really cool tool that I got this gen, allowing it to really be that special wall with like its 1000 base special defense, which is really insane. So great Pokemon. I love it, especially on like fat balance, like stall builds. Next up we have Zeke, who's gonna kind of talk about 2 Pokemon we just finished. We've just finished Ho-Oh, which is great. Special shout out to Ho-Oh, the GOAT. Personally, it's Mega V2X, which is another great Pokemon. I'm gonna take a sip of my coffee real quick. Hold on. I've been talking for a minute. How long has it been? 30 minutes? Good lord. Are we almost done? We're almost done. Okay, cool. But next up, Rio says, I've only played in a few, but Mewtwo. It's my favorite Pokemon, so of course I love using these. Specs, banded, setup, decently bulky, fast with amazing move pool. The model is amazing. 100%. If you want to see like all the things that Mewtwo can do that you didn't expect it to, like you expect it to just be like nasty plot, offensive life force, special attacker, watch Fallswipe Gaming's video on YouTube. I think it's a really fun video to watch. I love Fallswipe Gaming videos, and they really go over how versatile and crazy Mewtwo really is. And that's just in Smogon. Imagine in a game where you can see your matchup and you know exactly what you're playing. The possibilities with that Pokemon are pretty much endless. It's Mew, but on crack. Really cool mon. Next up, we have Neshoba saying, of course I'm going to say Mega Gengar. The ability to shut out any attempts to click a status move with Encore and base 130 speed is just insane. It 1v1s any slower Pokemon if you make a proper read or use Teleport. It also forces so much prep, which opens the way up for the rest of the draft. So yeah, Mega Gengar is an awesome mover. It's one I really want to try. It has, not only is it like base 130 speed, base 170 something special attack, it also has one of these certified most broken abilities in the game, most broken things to do in trapping with Shadow Tag, and it really forces very specific prep. You can EV to live specific hits if you really need to. You can Encore, you can Perish Trap, you can Taunt, you can really just kind of revenge kill things and, you know, trap things in that aren't running Shed Shell or Scarf or Resist Burn, things like that. And it very much so forces very specific prep to where the rest of your team can really thrive. And if you get, you know, supporting cast members and supporting partners that can kind of, you know, function alongside that Mega Gengar, you're gonna have a good time. So it's a great mon. Next up, we have Thriller saying, if it was Ubers and Legends, Legends Arceus, I would say Palkia Orange, but it's Palkia, but better. It's Palkia, but better. That mon just breaks so good. And if we don't count those, I know it's not always an Uber, but Ursula Single Strike, because click buttons and claim kills that mon Rex lies. Okay, that was a sentence. But Thriller's right. These are kind of all mons we already talked about. Palkia Origin is going to be really cool if it ever does get added to the mainline games, because it has like these like 120 or something speed. Now, the only thing that's tough about it is if it's like forced to... it'll be better than Palkia if it's not forced to hold an item. Because Palkia, I think its speed tier is sufficient, and you might, you know, want the speed tier in draft, I guess, for like 120 or whatever. With the ability for Palkia to run Life Orb, Specs, things like that, it can be just as strong, if not stronger, than Palkia Origin if it's forced to, like, you know, hold a Lustrous Orb or something like that in, like, you know, standard games and things like that. But I think overall I'd rather have Palkia if that is the case, like regular, but still great mons. Then we talk about Urshifu as well. Then Banette Bandit is going to say, gotta be Genesect, amazing coverage, down makes it extremely good. Mixed attacker, and it has pivot, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, it's a great Pokemon. It's extremely fun to use in pair something that doesn't like grass types like Zygarde 50. That's actually a good pair. I like that. But yeah, Genesect's amazing. That was the first Pokemon we talked about. And it looks like we finished in 30 minutes. Let's go. Look at that. Thank you guys all for replying to these. I love reading these. I love talking about Pokemon. I forgot to like Thrillers, so let me put that there. But yeah, I think this is a fun time. I really enjoyed it. Like I said, go ahead and go over to my Twitter if you want to follow me, OG_Albina, and talk about a custom mega idea that you have. Definitely go do that. Drop a like on the video if you enjoy, sub if you're new. There's a link to the BBL server down in the description below. And I guess I can say it out loud too. I kind of like already alluded to it, but the BBL is having its next season. It's going to be, I believe, season 9 or season 10. We won last season, so we're the defending champion. And I'm really excited. We have a really fun coaching roster. We're in the process of drafting right now, and I don't want to spoil what we got. But we're 2 picks in, and I already like our team a lot. So hopefully it'll be a fun squad, and you'll see those videos in the coming weeks. And yeah, that being said, we'll see you guys next time. Later.